My 2 nights in Bali were a lot of fun, but nothing like the typical tourist visit. Straight off the ferry from Lombok, it was a couple of hours ride down to the main tourist area in Bali, Kuta, where I stayed for a couple of nights with German-born 20-year local resident Lupo, whom I met in a cafe at Labuan Bajo in East Nusa Tenggara a few days before. Lupo and the gang made sure I felt right at home. It's not hard to see how this beach has got such a great reputation. Lupo gathered a few riders and organised a tour for us out into the country to a cafe in the hills, which was just a beautiful way to spend the day. An assortment of half a dozen bikes and riders, including one scooter, came with us for the trip. I'd forgotten it can be such fun riding in convoy like this. I think it might be pretty close to exactly 30 years since the last time I did so. Pretty sure this bridge was built just for motorbikes. Once we got out of Bali proper, the roads had great curves and amazing views. I'm told that the Gong Jatalui cafe at which we had lunch is a world famous and heritage listed rice farm. But it was just a short stop and the road was calling. Another failed attempt to get the DJI drone to follow us for some air footage. I'll get that working at some stage. One of the advantages of riding in convoy is that there can be some footage of me riding rather than only from my bike. Look, there I am. I'm quite sure that traffic lights right throughout Asia make you wait at a red light a whole lot longer than they do in Australia. There's no such thing as waiting for a gap in the traffic in Asia. You have to make your own gap. I like to sneak in behind someone who's cutting across in front of the oncoming traffic. Just makes me feel a little safer. I don't think I'll ever get used to how much they stack onto the back of those scooters, and this example is a small load. We were back to Lupo's soon enough. It was a really good ride. In fact, it was just a highlight of my trip so far. A lot of fun. But as ever, the road was calling, and the next morning it was time to make tracks. Thank you, Lupo, for your warmth and hospitality. You've made it just an amazing couple of days in Bali. Back through the Bali suburbs one last time. And just as I was getting going, caught on camera this time, another one of those terrible drop the bike moments. The fact that it happens at a near stationary speed and all very slowly doesn't make it any better. The only damage was to my pride, so I picked up the 300 odd kilos of bike, climbed back on, and was on my way. I'd only spent 1 hour at the beach a couple of nights before, and that was with company where the main focus was engaging with the people. So I dropped back to the beach on my way out just so that I could have one proper look, take in the scenery. Sure, it was a beautiful beach, but I think you really would have to be a surfer to appreciate the full extent of this. A couple of kilometres down the road, more of the same as I rode on, and then took off properly with the 5 or so hours ride to the ferry on the west coast of Bali. Plenty of this road was coastal and just gorgeous views. I stopped in just for a couple of minutes at Madui Beach, which I understand is another really popular surfing spot, and found a couple of Australian faces there too. and finally on to the port at Malaya from which the ferry would depart. I struggled a bit to follow the Google Maps directions. Made a wrong turn into an industrial port, and the local assistant there was very animated in telling me that I'd come to the wrong place and needed to turn and go back a little. But before doing that, I'd spied just at the end of the road here a beautiful little spot, and I wanted to check it out before I jumped on the ferry. So that took my attention for a couple of minutes. And finally, then back to the correct entrance for the ferry terminal. I purchased what I thought was a ferry ticket at this gate. I had spent hours in queues like this on the way to Bali. I'm very glad these queues were empty. When I got to the gate, I discovered that what I had purchased was in fact a parking ticket, completely useless since I wasn't parking, and no ferry ticket. And the lady kindly informed me I'd have to turn around, go all the way back out, at which point I'm especially glad there are no queues, and purchase the ticket at the little store over in the car park itself. With all that finally sorted, it was relatively straightforward getting onto the ferry and across to Java.